Thank you. Thank you, Professor Wolff. In addition to denial, there's also the theme of violence, led by Kamala, the lethal commander in chief. In your very thorough report on economics, you didn't mention climate. Ah, what is the effect of global climate chaos on the economy? Never mind the decline of empire. Are we headed towards economic and social collapse?
What we're, I don't know about collapse, but I do know that the climate crisis is a real factor impacting the US economy in so many ways that it would take a politician who was really honest to think through, with advisors, of course, and then present to the people some kind of comprehensive way of dealing with that. Trump is never going to do that. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris didn't do it either. But I'm going to give you now some examples. One of the major reasons large numbers of very poor people want to immigrate into the United States is because where they live has been impacted by climate change, so they can't make a living there. They can't grow crops, they can't grow animals, they can't maintain a certain industry, they can't maintain trade. The United States' pollution, or its contribution, not only the United States, but the United States being a rich, big, powerful country, contributes in many ways to global movements of currents and temperature changes and so on. And those are, for example, a major factor in the immigration crisis we have. Likewise, the changing temperatures and currents around the world are affecting global trade in all kinds of ways that cost the United States. And so a comprehensive program on climate could, in fact, soften, ameliorate, modify, or in some cases solve other kinds of problems you don't connect in your mind right away to climate. And then, of course, the question of what it's doing to human health, to food production, and all the rest that we already know a good bit about ever since, Rachel Carson wrote her book umpteen years ago, letting us know about this. So yes, the climate is so important because it's not just a direct threat to us in the form of the wildfires and the droughts and all the other things, the hurricanes that we can see and that are dramatic. But just as important are these indirect effects on all of us. Europe is becoming, in the summertime, in large parts of it, almost uninhabitable. It gets so hot. They can't grow wine in areas that used to be wine producers. Or what are those people going to do? Where are they going to go? How are the economies going to cope with all of this? In order for this to be handled, of course, you need international cooperation, and you need the cooperating countries to be able to make policy. We don't have that. But the problem there is not Kamala Harris and Trump. The problem there is a capitalist system. If we allow the decision about where we locate production, what goods we produce, what technologies we use, to be made by a tiny group of people, the employer class. U.S. Census tells us that 3% of Americans are employers. See, the other 97% are employees or their families. Well, we're allowing 3% of the people to make the decisions, what to produce, how to produce, where to produce, etc. And they tell us honestly, we do it to maximize profit. Because that's what people like me teach them in business school. You are there to maximize profit. Okay, that's what they're doing. You don't want them to do that. You want them to have as a priority, which I agree with, maintaining the climate. Okay, but then what do you do if that which is profitable is bad for the climate. Which objective prevails? In capitalism, the answer is profit. Then you got to question the system and look at how likely that is in a country like ours, which denies that there is another system, which denies that there's a conversation to be had where we weigh the pros and cons of capitalism with the pros and cons of the alternatives that are there. You know what is teaching that lesson slowly and painfully? China. The majority of the people of the world live in countries that are poor. And their number one objective of those countries is to stop being poor, to have enough to live, to raise their families, to educate their children. That's what they want. So they want to see economic growth. What they see now is that in China, the growth that they've achieved is the most spectacular growth story in world history. So they are looking at that system, which the Chinese call socialism with Chinese characteristics. That's the official name. Okay, should we discuss the pros and cons of these different systems? Of course we should. Of course that should be on the agenda. Of course we should have voting. Which one do we want to try? Well, we don't do that. We exclude all of that and we focus only on other issues that are important, but they're not any more important than those that we are excluding, and we are going to die from this exclusion one way or another until people realize they can't continue to deny the climate issues, direct and indirect, but all of these other issues as well.